Well, I was always brought up with music, and I loved music, and my parents loved music. And it was back in the 1940s, and that time uh, musicians were not too prevalent. My mother was given a piano, and she loved to play the piano and sing, and my dad sang with her. And we learned to grow up singing. And so it was real important to me to sing, continue singing.
Yeah, we both grew up in Hess Mennonite Church. I went there all my life. Jeanette came later, but that's how we met, and we were in the same youth groups and so on. We felt strongly called to get married, and so September 1st, 1951, we got married, and the very day we got married, we left for Goshen College.
And when we went to Goshen College, it was really a stimulation because we had a lot of people that were excited about music and singing and all kinds. And so it was fun to be there, and it was a challenge.
Of course, that 1 year, it was planned to go 1 year, and I planned to put in as much music as possible that year. And Jeanette, of course, was going to be taking some courses too.
I took, beside music, I did have some Bible courses and, home ec courses. So we sang in things out there, and it was a challenge.
But that was life-changing for us. We sang under people like Mary Oyer and so on, and I mean, you never forget that. To us, it was really something to be involved in music in that way. So we came home.
It was very helpful when we came back home. We thought, now where do we want to go? To have something that would inspire us like we did before and share it. And that was when Ross was really, like Paul said, in inspiring us and guiding us into Neffsville and what they have to offer.
And then we continued to go to Hess Mennonite pretty much, except I started working for Ross Goldfuss. And Ross and Ruth, of course, were the one couple, and Marty Erb and were one couple that were very involved in getting Neffsville started.
Now, it was not what it is today, but we did have different groups that sang, and I sang in small groups and sang in the choir, of course.
And so, Ross would invite us to come, and we came to the old church. In fact, I led some singing at the old church. And back then, of course, we were involved with the youth. I also started working with music at that point. Of course, Dave Landis and I were involved very much. We would take turns having the choir and so forth, but that's how we got started. And then I think it was 1957 we actually became members, but we were coming there before that. So that gives you a little bit of the background.
Different inspirations for moving on, in the first place was cloister choir, apart from the church and school. And there we participated in the Vorspiel, which was a German music group. We had to learn some German. But the interesting part about that was that the men did not sing tenor, so they chose women for tenors. So I was being a tenor for a while, and that was a challenge. And so we had many different places where we sang. Paul had a lot of different musician spots that he sang with the quartet. But I do remember one time when he was singing a lot, and somebody asked our young son what your dad does in work. And he said, oh, he sings in a quartet, unknowing you know, very innocently, and so that was sort of funny. But he did a lot, so that was his impression. It was always good music, and we filled the church usually because people came there. They knew that we had good music to share, and we can feel good about that. And I think for one thing, it was Nunemacher was the one that was drawn to our church because of the music.
Jack Nunemacher.
Yeah, Jack Nunemacher. Yeah, and he was an addition to our church. He and Rita, and so that was a good inspiration and help.
Yeah, Nights of Music. I think there were several of us. I know I was one of the brainchilds of that, but I believe that was when Art Dick was there, I think, and we had a music committee, and of course we came up with the idea of having Nights of Music, and we felt that it was a ministry for us, that it brought people to the church that wouldn't have come otherwise. And I still remember some of those Nights of Music. We didn't have a budget. We knew that in order to bring those people, it was going to cost us a lot of money. And I said something one time to one of the people in our church who happened to be a businessman, and I told him how scared I was, that how are we ever going to pay for this? He said, "Paul, don't worry, it'll be taken care of." And so it was. But we brought people like the New Holland Band, gave us a sacred concert. I think twice we had Lancaster Opera, it used to be called Lancaster Opera Workshop, did Amo and the Night Visitors. We had Alice Parker and Melodious Accord, which is the name of her group. And so, you know, those are the kind of things we did, but it was very important because we felt that it was a ministry that we were providing, and we were known for that. As we look to the future, I see a unique place for Nessville Mennonite Church because we are now drawing the conservative Mennonites to our church. They love our church. Recently, Oasis Chorale was there for 2 days rehearsing because of the church. We spent a whole weekend introducing conservative Mennonites to instruments with Lloyd Kaufman. I was there the whole time because I was the person who was a contact person. We do have one coming up in November, a male chorus group, Conservative Mennonites, and and children's choir. You know, we provide rehearsal space for the children's choir. They come and give us a program, and when we have those kind of programs, the place is packed. And so, you know, looking to the future, I see this. And as far as, of course, I make no apologies. I'm for hymn singing. I just make no apologies about that. We need to continue that.
Yeah, that drew a lot of people from the congregation too that didn't sing normally,
Yeah.
and that was very interesting to see.
Full stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that was a highlight.
Of course, I got involved leading congregational singing at Nessville, just one of many at that point. But I was always a proponent of congregational singing. In my view, the way you get a congregation to worship together is sing together. Everything else we do does not involve everybody. except maybe praying. But singing, everybody can worship in singing. And we grew up with that. See, back in the old days, we sat men on one side and women on the other. And that's how you learned to sing parts. You would sit among men, in my case, and I'd hear tenor, I'd hear bass, and you'd learn. And we had singing schools, believe it or not, where they taught us how to sing. And so that all carried over. And so, of course, in my case, and both of us actually, Jeanette already mentioned the New Holland Community Choir, which was very interesting. We both sang with Lancaster Franconia choral singers one time, and that was Bethlehem 83, because I had been in a workshop at LMH. She wrote that All May Be One. That was like a cantata, and I wanted to sing that because I was in a workshop with her. And so we got permission to do that, but we didn't sing with them after that. Like she said, after the cloister course, we were very much involved there. I actually went to Europe on a choral tour with them. And of course, we sang 25 years with Heritage Chorale of Lancaster, which was an offshoot of the Ephrata cloister course, and just gave that up 2 or 3 years ago. And men's groups, oh my goodness. Florida, the Florida men's groups, we had men's festivals. I was on the committee for the Pennsylvania Men's Choir Festivals, and we didn't have the last one because of COVID, but we finished that for now, forever maybe. Quartet, 10 years, Nessville Men's Quartet. Dave Landis, Herb Hess, Ken Sensnick, and I. And oh my, we were just singing all the time. Weddings, back then you sang at weddings. The highlight, I think, for me was the one time I got to sing with the Mass Combined Men's Choir in Winnipeg, Canada for World Conference. I went to check in to register, and I saw they had a men's choir. I said, okay, what do you got to do to be able to sing in the men's choir? They said, give us $20 Canadian. That'll get you the music, and you're in. I said, okay. And we're going to rehearse at Steinbeck in a couple days and be there. So that got me in. It was Kansas men, which was 100 plus. It was Faith and Life men from all over Canada. It was one guy from Oregon and me from Pennsylvania. And we sang at the final program, and amazing. And that was a highlight. I mean, I can't top that. Trios, sextets, octets, and choir. We had in Roy Burkholder's book, there was one of the pictures of our choir back then. We must have had usually 40 plus people. Even young people wanted to sing with you then. Someone started a piano fund. It wasn't official, but somebody started it. And so that became known. And I was sort of checking up in that. I think 54% of the congregation voted to continue the piano fund.
Okay.
Yeah, started with the upright. The baby grand was donated.
Yeah.
And a lot of our instruments, of course, were donated. Me personally, I have to admit, I was not for having instruments. And yet I knew that for certain things we'd have to. Of course, the bell choir was donated. The Nisley family donated the bell choir, and I was the first director of the bell choir. The picture in Roy Burkholder's book again, 11 people were playing bells because they started with 3 octaves and then added to 5 octaves. And I think the picture in the book is when we did Variations on a Theme by Haydn, which included piano, organ, and bells. And that music is still in our library at church, and I wish I could pull that out again and use that. Incidentally, I should mention, Nessville Mennonite Church has one of the best music libraries around. See, back in the years when I directed the choir, we didn't buy music, we borrowed music. We'd go to Parish Resource Center. We would go to New Holland Community Choir, had a whole big library of music. I borrowed a lot from them, and we didn't buy a lot of music. Well, yeah, I guess I worked with a lot of different hymnals. I guess the Red Mennonite hymnal was one that I really liked. I liked the one we have now, and I like the blue worship book. But I'll never forget Alice Parker made the statement that the Mennonite hymnal, the Red Mennonite hymnal, in her opinion, was one of the best hymnals around. And that, I never forgot that. Every year we went to Laurelville Music Week, and oh my goodness, that was great. And we spent a whole week with Alice Parker and Mary Oyer and learned to know them personally, and just had so much fun with them. So, and that was a big thing for our family. You know, all our family played instruments. Our 2 oldest sons were violinists. Our son Ray played the viola, and of course Linda's a professional cellist. So we really had a string quartet, but we never got them together. There was too much age difference.
In 1973, Neffsville Mennonite Church decided to buy a Rogers organ. I had started to play organ when I was 13 and played in other churches and at programs and many weddings, so they asked me if I would play at the service at Neffsville. So I said I would, and I decided to take lessons again from Helen Nuss, who is was the organist at St. Peter's Lutheran Church across the street. And those lessons were on their pipe organ. She taught me to be a church organist, and I was ever so grateful to her. This was a new experience for Neffsville because Mennonite churches didn't have organs, and they were used to a cappella singing and singing with a song leader. So we had to take it slowly, and I tried to play a variety of music so everyone would be pleased, hopefully. I had subs to help me through the years: Joanne Brown, Arlene Erb, Beth Rohr, Donna Hess, Linda Dowd, Judy Warfel, Helen Burkholder, Wilbur Miller, and Daryl Hollinger. Helen Burkholder and I started playing piano and organ duets once a month, and the congregation really enjoyed them. Later on, it was Don Frank and I. One of the bigger programs we did was the Holy City with J. Mark Stauffer as guest conductor. And that we did this 2 years, and the church was packed. And I really enjoyed working with J. Mark, never dreaming that he would be our pastor someday. In 1991, we built a new sanctuary, and we put in a pipe organ, which is every church organist's dream. Our minister of music was Wilbur Miller, and he knew a lot about Chant's pipe organs, so he was very, very helpful in picking the stops, and even fixed it a few times. And my experience on the pipe organ over at St. Peter's helped me with that touch, because they do have different touches, electric organs and pipe organs. We had sold our Rogers organ to Mellinger's Mennonite Church.
Still in use today.
Yes, yes, it's still there. The new sanctuary brought many weddings and programs to our church, which made me very, very busy. So after 26 years, I decided to quit and just be a substitute. Then the church hired Greg Gaiman, and then Glenn Lehman, and now Jim Souter and Peggy Grabowski. Morgan has helped during those years also. I made many trips to the church to practice, and I'm sure the church staff got tired of listening to me. But I really enjoyed playing, and I always prayed that my prelude would prepare their hearts for worship.
Gradually, we're weaving it into the service.
Not everyone was really excited about an organ, but the majority of the people were, and having the instruments. But we took it slowly, and of course, we heard things we didn't always like, but we just took it slowly and gradually. Everybody really liked it. We still did some a cappella singing. I didn't play much classical music in the beginning. I wove that in. And as I said, we took it slowly. They learned to really enjoy it. I couldn't play it enough. I was practicing one day, and a lady walked in, and she started asking me all about the church. And she was so, and then she was invited to a Wednesday night. And she was so impressed, she kept coming. It was Gail Gratz. And he was sitting beside us, and he said, I have to tell you this, that when you put the pipe organ in, I thought, oh, all that money for a pipe organ. Why do we have a pipe organ? And then he heard the story about Nunemacher, the policeman, that's what brought him to church, and he said, I changed my mind. Well, I always told the song leaders, I will follow you. Sometimes I had a criticism going too slow, and I said, I follow the leader. If he goes slow. But then I was told, well, I would tell my song leaders, I said, if I play the introduction too slow or too fast, straighten me out. And if I was, they would pick me up if I was going too slow, hopefully.